Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a terrible day for the Indian Air Force and for India. A twin-seater Jaguar fighter jet has crashed in Churu, killing both pilots on board. Squadron leader Lokendra and Flight Lieutenant Rishi's bodies were recovered from the burning wreckage you're seeing on your screens. The Jaguar, a trainer, took off from the Suratgarh Air Base and crashed 9 minutes after takeoff. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the third Jaguar of the Indian Air Force that has crashed this year, taking down 3 pilots. Today's crash is yet again raising concerns about whether the Indian Air Force should be flying the Jaguars at all. The low-flying fighters were inducted into the Air Force 46 years ago. And just by the way, we are the only country on this planet that is still flying them. Countries like Britain, France, Nigeria, Oman, which once had Jaguars in their fleet, have retired them a long time ago, with some jets actually now in air museums. That's how old it is. The Indian Air Force is desperately short of fighter jets. We know this. Against a sanctioned strength of 42 squadrons, we have just 30. So the Air Force has but no choice but to postpone the phasing out of Jaguars. Question is, at what cost? This year alone, we have lost 3 fighter pilots. Air Commodore A.S. Bahal is an ex-Indian Air Force officer joining us on the broadcast. Air Commodore Bahal, thank you very much for your time. My question is simple. Most people you speak to within the Indian Air Force will tell you that the Jaguars should have retired 10 years ago at least. Why are we still flying them? Are they the next flying coffins of the Indian Air Force?
Jaguar was inducted in 1979 and it has completed 46 years for some batch of aircraft. But when we look at the entire fleet of aircraft or 6 squadrons that we have of Jaguar, we find that some of the aircraft may have come 10 to 12 years later, with the result that we may have some aircraft that are beyond 40 years, and there are a large number of aircraft that could be between 35 to 40 years. But again, most of them would be finishing their lives soon or have already finished their lives. And like you rightly mentioned, that all other countries in the world have mothballed this aircraft and have put them into museums. We have no choice. We had given the requirement of 126 medium role combat aircraft in the mid 2000 to 2010 to the government to give us 126 aircraft, but we eventually bought only 36 sometime in the late 2017 or 18. Now, with the result, we were still short by a large number of aircraft. Had we bought full 126 aircraft at that time, Rafale aircraft, we would have been in good hands as of this moment. But whatever the constraints may be at that period of time, we cannot afford to mothball 6 squadrons of Jaguar, 3 squadrons of MiG-29 and 3 squadrons of Mirages. That means 12 squadrons which have already completed more than 35 years of flying and are very close to their retirement stage. So, but we don't have fighter squadrons, and it is perhaps one of the factors is also the late induction of LCA. But more importantly, what we need today is a 5th generation aircraft, as most of these aircraft are around 4th generation. And I was reading an article that Defense Secretary is still thinking of deciding between the Su-57 and the F-35. But my request to the government and to everybody who's in the decision making, how many more pilots have to lose their life before they start taking quick decisions and start filling in the shortage of aircraft, which they should have done much earlier?
Sir, there is a report that is telling us that every year we are losing at least 2 Jaguars. There are at least 2 Jaguar crashes. The fact also is that there are no spares available for Jaguars. So if something does go wrong with them, we don't have the spares. In fact, we are cannibalizing the ones we are retiring to keep the ones that are alive flying. These are the death traps. You should expect more pilots to die if we continue to fly the Jaguars.
Very right, ma'am. What happens is when the aircraft become old, they require more spares and they require a dynamism in providing the spare support as the fatigue of structures start take place. In any case, the engines of the Jaguar, which is the Rolls-Royce Mark Adore 811, are very underpowered. And as the aircraft climbs up, the reserve of power is just not there in this aircraft for all those who have flown Jaguars earlier. And let me assure you that we need to retire them as early as possible. Though Indian Air Force makes all attempts to try to keep them safely airborne, but again, it's a machine and
Sure.
it's a structure that is getting old. And if I want to take your mind to Delhi, where people were wanting to retire 10-year-old diesel cars and 15-year-old petrol cars. And at the same time, we want to fly more than 40 years old aircraft because we can't take decisions on time. And that HAL is slow in induction of aircraft. There are a lot of fingers at HAL, but nobody has the heart or the courage to say that HAL is also at fault to blame because they are very slow. Remember the air chief when he took out his heart and said, I have no faith in HAL.
Correct.
Now, the CAG report also clearly indicates that all the defense-related projects have shown a 16%, two-thirds of them have shown 16% to 500% delays. And imagine 5-year project takes 25 years in a country. And what happens to the short-term gap? Why is the government not taking any action? My question is to Defense Secretary, why is he not taking quick action and deciding to quickly, in the stopgap, get some Su-57s or whichever aircraft that they decide, 5th generation. Even Pakistan, which is a begging bowl country, is getting 2 squadrons of J-35. I can't understand it. It's beyond me.
No, it's not beyond me. The fact is that in India, decision making doesn't happen quickly because everyone is very afraid what if corruption happens, what if our name gets dragged in. So it's better to sit on files. It is better to let the Indian Air Force fly 46-year-old jets and let them crash. Koi baat nahi. Pilots hi to marenge na, let them crash as long as we are safe. So everyone is essentially playing safe and the HAL is not delivering on time. It's as simple as that. I wish it wasn't as simple as that. Air Commodore A.S. Bahal, thank you very much. We are speaking on a day when the Indian Air Force and India has lost 2 fighter pilots. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.